Do people in Canada have cable? Like other people?
We keep this up in the playoffs. I don't care.
And at Chili's. Is it a Chili's? At Kyle's?
Achilles.
Finally.
You don't know that?
Fuck you! Get this guy the fuck out of here!
Alright, well, coming in at number 5, I got Anthony Stolars.
Now! Jets are winning the cup!
Thank you for watching and listening. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 83 of the Nordcast. It is Wednesday, December 18th, 2024. Probably the early... Actually, no, it's not. It's the second earliest we've ever recorded a podcast. It is 2 p.m. in the East Coast. It is 1 p.m. for these guys. I am your host, Nordic, joined with Kata. Car, how we doing? I can't hear you.
Living the dream. What a start. Sorry, I'm so nervous because we have a very special guest with us today. So I'm shaking in my boots right now. I'm so excited.
Yeah, you guys heard that right. Jack is here with us today.
I got my special guest now.
Yeah, my special guest this time. Jack, how we doing?
Doing good.
I got to ask you, how's college been? You know, we've only had you on once this year, but how's it been, man?
Yeah, first semester was good. I'm home now for a month, so that's nice. But yeah, good first semester. Yeah, whole month.
Ooh, we have Jack for a whole month.
That's right.
Glorious. All right. Well, it's going to be a quick episode here. We don't have a lot of time, just a little bit of a time crunch this week because of Christmas and the holidays. We want to talk about the state of New York and how literally everything is a disaster and literally the sky seems to be falling there. In not just Buffalo, not just New York, like all three pro sports teams that play hockey, in fact, including the ones that don't play hockey aren't dead.
Yeah.
So, honestly, yeah. So, we're going to start with the Buffalo Sabres. We're going to go north, down, south, if that's how it works in New York. The Buffalo Sabres are now on a 11-game losing streak. This streak started at the end of November. Their last win was November 23rd, and ever since then, they have lost all of their games. Keep in mind, it's December 18th when we're recording this podcast. So it started off against Minnesota, where they got shut out 1-0. Then they lost 4-3 in overtime to Vancouver. Then they lost 3-0 to the Islanders, 5-4 to the Avalanche, 3-2 in overtime to the Jets, 5-2 to Utah, 6-5 in a shootout to Detroit, 3-2 to the Rangers, 4-2 to the Capitals, and 5-3 to the Maple Leafs. Now, before we get into last night's game, I want to talk about what Pegula said yesterday. How they had a meeting with Kevyn Adams and Pegula, and they talked about how, we're very confident in this team. No changes are going to be made. Nothing's going to happen to the locker room. Nobody's getting fired. Nobody's getting traded. And then the following day, they get absolutely blown out of the water 6-1 by Montreal. So when you guys saw, first off, we'll start off with what Pegula said, and then we'll get into the initial losing streak. When we saw that Pegula said no changes were coming to Buffalo, did you guys agree with that? Per se?
No, absolutely not. Anytime a team is on a 10-plus game losing streak, there's got to be a change made, whether that's coach, assistant. It could even be an assistant coach. I mean, lines got to be changing and stuff like that. It's just a whole nother mess, especially like with Buffalo's expectations this year. It's just not very ideal.
Yeah, for sure.
No, you want my opinion's the exact same as Jack's.
Oh, okay. All right. I was giving you a second there to talk. I mean, yeah, like I think that there should at least be some changes there in Buffalo, but it feels like with Adams, I feel like he's the one that should go. I don't really know if it's Lindy Ruff's fault, even though he just got there. I think with Adams, you look at a lot of the trades that have happened over the last couple of years, especially like Jack Eichel, Sam Reinhart, Brandon Montour, all guys where they gave up on them way too quickly and traded them for not a lot, to be honest with you. I mean, you did get back like Devin Levi, but like even then, like those guys aren't panning out. And you see Jack Eichel, who just won a cup with Vegas. You see Sam Reinhart's like become one of the best goal scorers in the league at this point and has won a cup with Florida. And then you see Montour, who gets a hefty deal in Seattle and then wins a cup in Florida as well. So it just seems like for me, that was something that I really noticed. I think Adams should be especially the one that goes. But Carter, the players who are on this team right now, who is doing well and who is struggling?
I mean, there's a lot of guys who are just not doing enough. They're not getting a lot of scoring offensively, and it's definitely showing like in their last 11 games, kind of during this losing streak. Tage Thompson and Jason Zucker are their two highest scoring players with 7 points each. Tage Thompson leads the way with 5 goals. Then it goes Dylan Cousins, Zach Benson, each with 6 points, and then Bowen Byram, Owen Power, and JJ Paterka, each with 5 as well. And then after that, it just goes 4, 3, 2. Like they're not getting a lot of scoring through these last kind of 11 games. And I mean, I don't really know where to turn here because I mean, there's so much young talent on this team that's just not producing right now. Like Peyton Krebs, he's got 3 assists through his last 11. He's 23 years old. Jack Quinn, who is probably supposed to take a step this year in this kind of losing skid, he's only got 2 goals this year, and he's just not really looked too hot either. Ryan Johnson, a 23-year-old defenseman, he's done nothing. And like Darlene, who he's in the 4 games that he was active in that losing streak, he had no points, which is not something that you want out of your number 1 D-man. So as far as a player standpoint, like they got to start scoring. And then from a team standpoint here, in these 11 games, they have 2 power play goals. That cannot happen in the NHL. You cannot have 2 power play goals over 11 games. They got to figure out this power play now and quick because they're getting a lot of chances on the power play, but are not capitalizing at all. So they really got to start fixing up this power play here because it's just not looking good.
Yeah, their power play has not been that great whatsoever. I'm trying to actually pull up the exact power play percentage. So as of this season, the Sabres are with a that's not right. That's goals against average. Power play percentage, the Sabres are bottom 3. They are 30th with a 13.8 power play percentage. The only teams that are below them are, ironically enough, the Boston Bruins and the New York Islanders. So, yeah, it's overall, it's not good enough there with the Sabres. Again, one of my biggest guys that I saw who was really struggling was Dylan Cousins. Cousins is somebody who, even last season, was really struggling, and this year the struggles have continued. But apparently we heard a few days ago that there are teams reportedly calling on Dylan Cousins. Now, you guys, Cousins has 14 points in 32 games played. 2 seasons before that, he had a really good, almost 70-point season, scored 30 goals. Ever since then, he's kind of been teetering off a little bit since then. But if you guys, hypothetically, the Blackhawks and the Jets, would you guys want to go out and get somebody like Dylan Cousins? And how much would you pay for him?
Obviously for the Blackhawks, I mean that fits their timeline perfectly.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe I would assume draft picks in this case. I think 2nd and 3rd rounder would make sense for him.
I feel like you might have to give up a little bit more for him.
Maybe a prospect.
I get it with the value right now. Maybe. Carter, what about you?
Yeah, I'd honestly love to have Dylan Cousins. I think we could use definitely some speed kind of on that second line. And he's this. Let's not forget that this guy is 23 years old. It feels like he should be older than 23 because I feel like I've been talking about Dylan Cousins for years. Yeah. Some of my best memories with Dylan Cousins is watching him in the World Juniors. I swear he was on the World Juniors team for 5 fucking years. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I mean, looking at the Jets roster, they could use him. In order to get him, I think you'd have to give up some sort of young talent, obviously, and then you'd have to give up at least a 1st or maybe a 2nd round pick. But Dylan Cousins, he's proven himself. He can play kind of all around. So, I mean, I think he'd be a great fit in Winnipeg, and I honestly feel like Chicago should try and go out and get him because I think getting a guy like Dylan Cousins to play with Connor Bedard, whether you put him on the wing or Bedard on the wing, I think it should be Bedard. But I think that he'd fit perfectly with Chicago. It'd just be about, I don't know what pieces Chicago has to be able to, as far as young talent goes, to be able to go out and get him.
Now, if you're Buffalo, I would be, hypothetically, if you were to trade Cousins, if you were to trade any other player on this team, I feel like they would want pieces that will impact the team now. Like, I don't think they want to go through another 4 to 5 year rebuild. I don't think they can do that again for like the third time. So hypothetically, like if you're Chicago, you would probably have to give up somebody who would like benefit the team right now. And again, just for Chicago, I don't really know who you would give up. You're not giving up Bedard, right? Like that's not happening. So yeah, I do think though, like Cousins would be a great fit. He's on a long-term deal though with the Sabres. Is there anybody else though in Buffalo that you guys hypothetically again and like realistically, is there anybody on the Sabres that like you wouldn't mind having and that you think that the Sabres could trade, get some real assets for?
I think Bowen Byram's a guy who we could see get moved.
Yeah.
Not from like a he's playing bad perspective, but in a fact of like Owen Power and Rasmus Dahlin were two guys that they picked. So I think that from a Buffalo standpoint, you want to keep the guys that you picked around. Bowen Byram they traded for, and I think that he's a great defenseman. I think he's really good, and I think if things start going south and they start to need scoring, like we might see Bowen Byram on the move, which sucks because I love Bowen Byram, but he's a name that I see there that I think could potentially get moved. Another guy maybe is Jack Quinn, a guy who teams could bank on just straight from potential. Because we've seen flashes of what Jack Quinn can do. He looked pretty solid last year. He's had long stretches of struggling, but he's had some really nice pieces of putting his game together. So I think a team could maybe take a stab at him as like we're going to give you a later pick than what you drafted him at, but like we might be able to buy super low on this guy. So those are two guys that I think for Buffalo could be names.
I would love Zach Benson. Personally, Benson's another one. Again, I'm not saying that these guys will get traded, but like he's one of those guys that I would love to have on my team. Going back to Byram, do you guys think that Byram is a number one defenseman?
I don't think so. I think that was like the expectation when he first got drafted, but I know he had that whole thing with the Colorado a couple years ago. Or was that last year? That might have been last year. But
last year when he got traded,
yeah.
Season. I don't think he's a number one either. He believes he can be, though. Apparently, Elliot Friedman came out and said something about that, which I'm not sure if I particularly agree with that.
I agree with that.
You think he could be a number one defenseman?
I think he definitely can. I think he could definitely be a number one defenseman. I think he's pretty solid in his defensive zone. I think he's got good offensive upside. Like he's their highest scoring D-man right now, outside of Owen Power. But like they've both kind of done the same. The only thing that sucks is his plus minus, which I mean you can always work on the defensive game a little bit, but like again, plus minus on Buffalo is a stat that you shouldn't dive too deep into.
Yeah. He is actually like since he's come to Buffalo, he has averaged more ice time. Like so far this season, through the 31 games he's played 23 minutes and 22 seconds. So he is getting more ice time. If he's going to be a number one defenseman, it's not going to be with Buffalo. I'm telling you that right now. You're not even the number two defender in Buffalo. So yeah, it's going to have to be elsewhere. One more thing before we wrap up, Carter. How are the goalies doing?
Oof, that is. I mean, it's really hard to say. None of them have over a 900. The highest is Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen with an 896, Devin Levi with an 876, and James Reimer with an 884. All of them have not been doing too hot. They're all facing like I don't even know. It's not looking good in Buffalo. To be 100% honest here, there's not a lot of good that's coming out of the defensive side. The only good thing is the fact that James Reimer, I think, is facing the least amount of shots on average. But Devin Levi, I think, is a guy who's got to start taking a step soon. I'll be honest. He's got to take a step soon. In the games, I'll read off their stats from this losing streak. So Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen in the losing streak has a 3.79 goals against average and an 8.74 save. James Reimer, he's played 3 games, more than Levi. and Reimer has a 296 and an 875 save percentage. And then Devin Levi, in the one game that he's played, has a 414 goals against average and a 900 save percentage.
It really sucks with UPL because he was playing good before the losing streak.
Mm-hmm.
Actually playing pretty good. They went 3-0 in that California road trip, and I was like, oh, is this where we see Buffalo like finally start going on a streak? But no. So yeah, again, Carter, I agree. Like, I think the goaltending still is not there yet for this team either. Yeah, it's kind of all we have to say. To wrap up with Buffalo, Jack, do you have their upcoming schedule?
Yes, I do. So Friday they have the Leafs, Saturday the Bruins, and then Monday the Islanders, which is they're winnable games, but I mean Leafs and Bruins are still solid. I think Islanders is a team that you can definitely beat. But who knows, if you beat the Leafs on Friday, go on a little streak, I mean, could be talking about a whole different topic with this team. So
maybe,
but unlikely, but
they need to at least win out the month of December, and then
definitely.
All right, yeah. So yeah, I'm looking at it as well. That's what they have to wrap up the Christmas break. Then after that, they kind of go on like the central road trip that they usually go on. Let's swap over to the New York Rangers, who are just still falling. They traded Trouba about 2 weeks ago at this point, and they are still falling down in the standings. They are now only 500, which is actually insane. They have a negative goal differential. They're 3-7-0 in their last 10. They've lost their last 3 games. And most notably, last night, they got shut out by one of the worst teams in the NHL, the Nashville Predators. What the hell is going on? Me and Carter talked last week about them, but like, what is the issue? I honestly have no clue. It seems like the players out there, they look tired. They look like they don't care. And did you guys see Capo Caco's quote the other day?
Yeah.
I didn't. What did he say?
So basically, Caco was scratched against St. Louis, and he went out there and basically said that I'm not even the worst player. I'm not even the player who's playing the worst on this team, and also said that it's easy to take the young guy out of the lineup. Pretty much what he said. So first off, he called out his teammates essentially,
That's
and then
wild.
second, I mean, like, I get the second part. I get you can be frustrated about the healthy scratch, but instead of like blaming himself and being like, I got to be more accountable, you know, like, oh, like I haven't been good. And instead he's like, oh, my teammates are even worse than I am. Carter, what is Caco's stats? Because I can't imagine they're that good.
Okay. So I have this pulled up from the last month. So it takes into account the last 15 games. I will tell you this. Capo Caco is right. Even though he got scratched, right? So this is in the last in their last 15 games technically, but it's taking account of the last month. Okay. He's 8th on the team in scoring with 5 points.
Oh my god.
So this is really bad. We talked about it last week, and we said that they got to start scoring. It's really bad because they're not helping Igor Shesterkin out. Like, in 14 games, he has 2 goals and 3 assists for 5 points, and that takes into account the last month. I'll take into account the last 2 weeks, and we're going to see where Capo Caco is.
Yeah.
Okay, he has fallen off significantly in the last little bit. He has 1 point through 6 games.
Okay.
But, hear me out, he's still doing better than Chris Kreider, who didn't get scratched. Jimmy Vesey didn't get scratched. Ryan Lindgren, oh, he's a defenseman, sorry. Edstrom, he didn't get scratched. So, like, I understand where he's coming from, but, like, when you look at sending a message, and, yeah, you scratch the young guy, but when he's also producing the same as what's supposed to be your first-line left winger,
yeah,
there's some problems there. So, I understand he hasn't been performing too great as of late, but players go through scoring droughts all the time, right? Like, it happens. And when it comes to young guys, scratching them works. Sometimes it doesn't. You look at Mishkov. He got scratched, and then things ended up working out. So, yeah.
So you agree with what Caco said?
In a sense, yeah.
I think that he is at fault, but so is the entire team. Every player on this roster is at fault for what's going on right now. Now, you mentioned that over the last 15 games. Carter, can you read off like the stats of some of the players the last 15 games, not like just Kreider and like how is Panarin, Cooley, how are those guys doing?
So, of the last 15 games, so of the last month, Artemi Panarin leads the team. In 13 games played, he's got 12 points. 5 goals, 7 assists. Adam Fox with 12 points as well. He finally has his first goal of the season, I think. So that's good for him. Will Cooley, he's got 11 points with 6 goals. So I'm pretty sure he leads them in goals. Again, we talked about it last week. What a story. Will Cooley's been absolutely unreal. Then Mika Zibanejad with 9 through 15, and then Vincent Trocheck with 8 through 15. Not doing too good. The only thing that's looking good for them in the this isn't even that good. In the last month, they have 6 power play goals in their last 15 games. So it's not as bad as some teams, but it's not too good either.
Yeah. Still, I agree. Yeah, a lot of things got to change here in New York. Who gets fired? Is it going to be like Chris Drury? Is it going to be Laviolette? Which one of those two is most likely to be fired? I would imagine it's probably going to be Laviolette, but I don't know. I
don't know. The Rangers had a closed door meeting about Chris Drury.
Yeah.
So it might end up being Chris Drury.
He's got to go.
What do you think, Jack? You think Drury should go?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like if now we're talking about how like we talked about with the Sabres, like players that we would want. The Rangers seem to be falling off as well. Just for fun, who are players on the Rangers that you guys would want on your team? That's realistic.
Kreider. Definitely Kreider.
Kreider?
Okay. He's a guy who does it all. I don't think they give him up, but I don't think the Rangers will sell either.
He has I don't think they'll sell, but he has term. So that's the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think like he is a good guy to get to be on your power play. He's a good power play.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Is he on the PK too?
No, I don't think so. I can confirm that in a second. Carter, what about you?
I don't really know. As far as like from a Jets standpoint, we need a defenseman more than anything. So it's like I don't know. Like
he might move on from Ryan Lindgren.
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say Ryan Lindgren is a guy that I could see. One thing I will say is over the last month, Vincent Trocheck is second in time on ice. The next closest forward is Artemi Panarin, and he's about a minute 30 ahead of Artemi Panarin in time on ice. So Chris Kreider, Vincent Trocheck, sorry, he's playing a lot of minutes. So maybe he's a guy who could get dealt.
Yeah, the only thing is, though, like Trocheck is on more of a long-term deal, as is a lot of the players on this team. Like a lot of them are on long-term deals or they're going into long-term deals. Like Lafreniere's in the final year of his bridge contract, then he goes into his big extension. So I'm going to read off a couple of names here, and I want to know if you guys would like want these players on your team. Riley Smith.
No.
No?
Yeah. I'd take him. He'd be good on the third line.
What about Capo Caco? Would you take a chance on Capo Caco?
Yeah, he needs a change of scenery. It just sounds like.
I feel like Chicago would be an interesting fit for him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about Jimmy Vesey? What a legend.
Legend, yeah. I'd pass though.
I am not touching Jimmy Vesey.
Ryan Lindgren. Again, we already talked about Lindgren.
No.
No for you, Jack? What about you, Carter? Carter, you said yes. So.
Yeah.
What about Keandre Miller?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
100%? He hasn't been that good this year, though. That's the only problem.
It doesn't matter. This year, like, banking on what he's done before. He's looked good previous years.
And what about Jonathan Quick? He's a little older.
Could use a backup.
Yeah, that like backup veteran guy. Again, like for those who don't know, I'm sure you know, but Carter's a Jets fan, Jack's a Blackhawks fan. If you couldn't see his hat, but like they're in two completely different perspectives with a rebuilding team and a contending team. So yeah, definitely changes there. But To wrap up with the Rangers before we move into the Islanders, again, we would be more in depth with them if we didn't have to, kind of speed things up. Jack, what's their upcoming schedule?
They got the Stars, Hurricanes, and Devils. So not very favorable 3-game stretch coming up.
Yeah, their schedule is only going to get harder from here. I believe, if I'm correct, they have the 4th hardest schedule winding down in the season per Power Rankings Guru. And again, as I think I said this last episode, Carter. I'm pretty sure I said this. But if they go 0-3 on that Western on that Central road trip, I felt like they were going to fire someone. So if they lose on Thursday, we might see a change. We might even see a change today or tomorrow because there's a 2-day break between games. It's not impossible, but again, we'll see where that goes from here. But let's move on from the New York Rangers to a team that we have really not talked about that much, the New York Islanders, who are 12-14-7 for 31 points. They are actually, ironically enough, tied with the New York Rangers, and they are 4-4-2 in their last 10. They have lost 2 in a row, most notably losing games to the Blackhawks and getting shut out last night by the Carolina Hurricanes. So, guys, what is wrong with the Islanders?
Just no offense, really.
Yeah, offense is really dried up. I mean, the team just can't seem to score. You look in terms of their last couple of games. Again, they're barely even cracking 4 or 5 goals in the month of December. They're losing the good teams. They're losing the bad teams. Did you guys know that the Islanders have blown a lead in the third period 12 times this season?
That is crazy. Not even the Blackhawks are doing that.
Keep in mind, they have played 33 games, and they have 12 blown leads. That's almost half of your games where you're blowing leads in the third period and going to extra time. They
could easily be a top 5 team in the league then.
Yeah.
It wasn't for all those blown leads.
Yeah, you're telling me. And they have the most overtime losses as well, believe it or not. But, Carter, I'll go to you. Who is scoring, who is not scoring on the Islanders?
So the last 10 games, Anders Lee is really leading this team. He's got 11 points through the last 10 games with 5 goals. Simon Holmstrom, this guy has looked very solid for the Islanders, a young bright spot on this team. He's got 6 goals, 3 assists through the last 10 games. Noah Dobson, who I think is the biggest snub on Team Canada, he's got 3 goals and 6 assists for 9 points. And then after that, it goes Bo Horvat with 7 points and JG Pajot with 6 as well.
Yeah, not good enough scoring wise. You only have 3 players who have scored 10 or more goals this season. It's not good enough. It just isn't good enough. They've blown so many leads and everything just it's a disaster. And of course they've dealt with injuries. Again, Matthew Barzal has been out for a lot of the season. Anthony Duclair has also been out as well. But again, Carter, I don't know if you want to go more in depth with Barzal, but even when he has played, he's kind of struggled.
Yeah, so this season, he's played 12 games. He's got 2 goals on the year, which is very unlike Matthew Barzal. Not something that we are used to kind of seeing out of him. He's got 3 assists, 5 points. It honestly, it sucks from a fan of the game perspective. The fact that we might never see Matthew Barzal in an offensive scheme ever. I hate this scheme for Matthew Barzal because this guy is one of the best offensive players when he has the chance to. He's one of the best. And it sucks because, like, in a defensive scheme, he's so good offensively, and just thinking of what this guy could do in an offensive scheme blows my mind because he could probably have a couple 100-point seasons by now if he was able to play offensive, but he hasn't. He's broken 80 points twice, and then besides that, he hasn't. His next highest scoring is 62 points. Like, he's had 2 big seasons above point per game, and then other than that, it's been 60s, mid 50s, and then he even had in the COVID year, he had 45 through 50. So, I mean, injuries have also played a big part in this for him. I think he's been hurt a lot. and it really sucks. In 22-23, he only played 58 games. And then, again, he got hurt this year. He missed like all of November and a good chunk of October and December as well. So not good. It sucks. It sucks for Matthew Barzal.
Yeah, it does. And I've always liked him too. Always was a player that I always enjoyed. We'll ask the same questions as we did the Rangers and the Sabres. Who's at fault? Who should get fired? Is it Patrick Waugh? Is it Lou Lamoriello? Is it the players that could get traded? Like, who is at fault here with this team?
I think it's the way the team's been put together the last 10 years.
So Lamoriello.
I mean, yeah, Lou Lamoriello. Yes, absolutely.
What about you, Carter? You agree?
Yeah, 100%. It's about time for Lou.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to happen. Maybe at the end of the season. Maybe it happens mid-season, but I think we're going to end up seeing it at the end of the year.
He builds a team like it's 80s or 90s still. So
yeah, you got to keep in mind too. They did just place Oliver Wahlstrom on waivers, who we'll get into here in a second. But Wahlstrom was always a guy that we were very high on this podcast, and never got to the level that we wanted, or that he ever could have gotten to with the Islanders. I also want to say they have literally only 2 players on the roster right now that are under 23. Excuse me. So yeah, again, it's a really old team there in New York. But I'll ask you guys this question too: is there anybody on the Islanders that you would like realistically want on your team?
Barzal.
I don't know. I'm kind of blanking right now.
Yeah, Barzal might be the only one. I would want.
Yeah.
Nelson's a good.
Yeah, Nelson's solid. He made Team USA, so
yeah, he did. He's a 30-goal scorer. He's on a relatively $6 million. If you retain for him, you could get some money.
Not bad. Yeah.
Kyle Palmieri maybe too. I didn't realize Kyle Palmieri was still only 33 years old. I felt like he was way older than that. Besides that, Noah Dobson is on an expiring deal, but like we're kind of just like it really, to be honest, like we're kind of just like talking about guys they won't move. Carter, what about the goaltending? How has Sorokin and Varlamov been doing? Are they the issue here, or I don't think they have been.
So Sorokin, he has definitely taken the net from Semyon Varlamov. He's played 9 games. He has a 3 goals against average, an .894 save percentage, with 4 wins and 4 losses. He does have a shutout under his belt, but I mean, it's not looking too great. He's facing about almost 25 shots a night, ish. So it's not like he's facing an abundance amount of shots. But I mean, if you're averaging about 25 a night, hopefully you'd be able to sneak an off night in there and get him a little bit of recoup. But I mean, they're kind of playing him into the ground. Marcus Hogberg has come in a few times. He's gotten 36 minutes over the 2 games that he's been put in. So
he hasn't let in a goal.
No, actually. He hasn't. He hasn't let in a goal. He's only faced 17 shots though. But maybe you give him a start coming up here. And then Varlamov, who is he hurt or no? Yeah, Varlamov is hurt. He's on injured reserve. So he only got 1 game in during that stretch. But during that kind of time, he let in 5 goals, had an .808 save percentage.
Yeah. So again, it's been kind of rough for the goalies. Jack, to wrap up with the Islanders, what's their schedule looking like?
Yeah, let me pull that up really quick. Yeah, Islanders have Leafs, Sabres, and Penguins.
Oh boy!
So some winnable games.
Winnable games in there, so they can kind of start turning this around. But again, New York has also really struggled too, or the Islanders have really struggled too. So if you had to rank these 3 teams in terms of the chances of them getting back into, actually being good, how would you rank them from 1 to 3?
Like the schedule coming up?
No, I mean, like, what are the odds that the team, like, turns it around? It's probably the better odds.
Very, very low. Very low.
Rank them from 1 to 3.
Oh, one.
Rank the my god.
like the games coming up.
Rank the Islanders, the Rangers, and the Sabres from 1 to 3 with the chances of them turning it around.
He's been out for too long, Nord. He's been out for too long.
All right, I'm slow. Okay, 1 Rangers, 2 Sabres, 3 Islanders.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. What about you, Carter?
I don't even know. I think it's 1 Rangers. I think Rangers have the best chance to turn this around because we've seen how good they can be. Maybe the Islanders too, because we've seen how good they can be, but at the same time, like some of their stars are just struggling. But it's the same thing in Buffalo. So I'll go Islanders 2 and then Sabres 3.
All right. Okay. I'm going same as Carter. Rangers 1, Isles 2, Sabres 3. Rangers because it's still New York. They can turn it around. Islanders. I've learned to never count out the Islanders in the 5 years I've been making content. And then the Sabres, just because I still don't think that they're that good. All right, let's move on from the state of disaster in New York. Let's go to news around the league. And there's actually a lot of stuff in news around the league. So let's just get straight into it here. Starting off with the trade that occurred. The St. Louis Blues have acquired defenseman Cam Fowler with $2.5 million salary retained, a 2027 fourth-round pick as well. And the Anaheim Ducks have acquired Jeremy Biakabutka and a 2027 second-round pick. I think that this trade, it's really a head-scratcher for the St. Louis Blues. Cam Fowler is not good defensively. So, yeah, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I would agree. He's out of his prime and
never really had a prime, to be honest.
No, not really.
I did a list where I looked at the worst defensive pairings in the league using X goals against average per 60. And not only was Cam Fowler on there once, he was on there twice with 2 different pairings, and he has still been absolutely atrocious this season. So, a little bit of a head scratcher there for me, but again, I don't know. Carter, you have any thoughts?
I mean, they kind of needed a little bit of help on that back end, especially with Torrey Krug being on LTIR and Nick Leddy now being on injured reserve. So they kind of needed something to help keep them into it. And Cam Fowler at $4 million, I mean, he's a proven player. Like, he's done it kind of all. He hasn't been very good this year, but, I mean, maybe you put him on a team with Colton Parayko, on a pairing with Colton Parayko, maybe some things will work out for him. So I think they're kind of just trying to get him as more of a defensive guy than kind of a pure offensive guy than kind of what he was in Anaheim. So maybe work on his defensive game so Parayko can do a little bit more on the offensive side. But I think that this was just kind of to fill the hole of Torrey Krug and Nick Leddy.
Yeah, I agree. Some signings around the league. Keegan Colasar is signed to a 3-year, $2.5 million deal by Vegas. Always liked Colasar, good third, fourth line guy. It shows that Vegas has really locked up their core. Braden Packel has signed a 2-year, $1.18 million deal with the Calgary Flames. Not a bad extension there. Good depth defenseman. And then Carter will like this one. Kevin He has signed a 3-year entry-level contract. He is the first Chinese-born player to sign an NHL deal. He was a 4th-round pick in this year's draft. He actually has 43 points in 29 games for the Niagara Ice Dogs. Carter, how do you feel about this? You love this?
Good. I like it. Kevin, he's looked really good. I've kind of caught a few of his flashes in the CHL. So, I mean, I think he's slowed down from the hot start that he was at earlier in the year, because I think we all know how freaking dominant this guy was to start it. So, I mean, yeah, he's going to be exciting. I'm excited to watch him, and he's got 43 points through the 29 games played, 23 goals as well as a 4th-round pick. So I'm quite pleased with that. So hopefully he ends up looking good for us, but I'm really excited to get this guy here.
He's awesome. Some waiver claims around the league. Again, we mentioned Oliver Wahlstrom went from the Islanders to the Bruins. Travis Dermott went from the Oilers to the Minnesota Wild. And I think we covered Mermis to Utah and Regula to Edmonton in our last episode. But in case we didn't, then those guys are there where they are right now. Anthony Stolarz, Nordcast legend, is out 4 to 6 weeks due to a knee injury per Brad Treliving. So Sucks there for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Jack, you have any opinion on this?
Yeah, this sucks so bad.
He's been really good this year, though.
He has, I know.
Like, I'm going to give you a lot of credit. Like, last year, I probably would have laughed at you when you saying he was a top 5 goalie. This year, Jack, I don't know. I might have to.
It's close. It's close.
Yeah. So I think Jack really started the Anthony Stolarz.
Yeah, I think I motivated him.
Yeah, for sure. All right, one more thing before we get into trending players and the power rankings. Did you guys see the Canada and Sweden World Junior rosters?
I saw Canada's. I have not seen Sweden's.
I'll just send both of them to the group chat. Carter, I know you're going to have plenty of opinions on Canada. Are you a fan of that roster? I know you had complaints last time, but what do you think?
There's so much to complain about.
All right. Let's get it going.
Oh, you want me to? Okay. First off, Beckett Seneca not making the team. What the fuck? Zane Perrick not making the team. What the fuck? Who else didn't make that team?
Oh, someone else.
There's another player that's off the top of my head right now. Whatever. He didn't make that team either. What are we doing here? Secondly, Gavin McKenna, CHL's leading scorer. He's a rotation guy. What the fuck are we doing?
Now I'm gonna actually defend that.
You're not gonna be able to.
No, what I'm saying is that McKenna, this is his first World Juniors, and I do think that is a little ridiculous being a rotation player, but this is his first World Juniors, and a lot of the guys who are playing above him have already played in a World Junior before. I get it. I get what you're saying, but I can see why maybe he's getting reduced ice time. Maybe a rotation's a little bit crazy, but I can see why he's playing like third or fourth line minutes.
I want to tell you this, okay? He is projected the highest by a long shot in points as a draft -1 year.
All right. Well, again, like you look at the rest of the team, I still think it's really good. I like Luchenko in there. I like a guy like Braden Yeager. I think that it's a solid roster, but again, they went from a team that I thought was like a sure favorite to a team that is kind of just like a favorite, in my opinion. I don't know if you really agree with that, Carter, but I don't know.
Again, so many guys who I think should have made this roster. I mean, like Andrew Crystal is another guy who I thought should have made it. Like he's been absolutely lighting it up.
I want to see Bedard go play again because he's still eligible.
That's the crazy thing too. Is like you look at some guys in the NHL right now. Like Bedard could come back for another year.
Yeah,
Celebrini could come back for another year. Zach Benson could come back for another year, and that's just forwards.
Yeah, but I think we said this.
The Kirby Doc injury, I think, has become less popular.
Obviously, and Chicago would definitely know. But, like, I mean,
dumbass.
Chicago's not going anywhere with or without Bedard. Like, you might as well just send him back to Canada for another chance.
Yeah, but they're not going to do that. They wouldn't do that.
No
way.
They wouldn't let him.
No. What about Team Sweden? What do you guys think about Team Sweden? They're kind of. We talked about the World Juniors in the summer, but they're kind of to be honest with you.
No comment.
They got Sandin Pellikka for like the 8th year in a row. Tom Willander, Otto Stenberg. That's about it. It's not that bad.
I will say this. Sandin Pellikka on MVP watch for the tournament.
Okay. I like that. Victor Eklund, another guy too, who I'm a really big fan of as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for sure. All right, well, let's move on from that to trending players. You guys have any trending players for us?
Teuvo Teravainen, 6 points in his last 2 games.
Of course, he goes with the Blackhawk. I got one. It's Patrick Laine. Scored a hat trick last night. He has been awesome. Yeah, Patrick Laine is one of the ones for me. Also, Lane Hudson too. He scored his first NHL goal the other night.
He's been good.
Yeah, credit to him as well. Carter, you got any?
Yeah. Leon Draisaitl, Nikita Kucherov, each with 9 points in their last 3 games. Draisaitl with 3 goals, but Kucherov with 8 assists. So those 2 guys who have actually coming out yesterday were almost traded for each other in 2019.
Oh,
Crazy.
really?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, did you not hear that from Jeff Merrick?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I did hear
Also,
that.
shout out Panthers and Oilers for game of the year.
That was a game of the year.
No,
I agree with
Tampa Columbus, that was game of the year.
That was a good one too.
That 6-5 game that I just couldn't stop talking about because it was such a good game.
Yeah, that's right. I also want to give credit to Jake Gensel. He has goals in 7 straight games as well.
Yep.
Another guy from Tampa there too.
Shout out
I
Macklin Celebrini. Guy has been absolutely unreal.
Yeah, he's also been great too. I had one more and I completely missed my mind.
Shout out Scott Lawton for 4 goals in a game.
I was
Lawton
there.
did have,
Yes.
Yeah, Nordic was there.
Shout out Scott Lawton. That was unbelievable.
Good view
one,
too.
Yeah, my last one before we get into power rankings. Luke Shen recorded 6 shots in 3 seconds last night in the Rangers versus Predators game. Never seen this before at all. He had like 6 straight backhands on Shesterkin, and like just did not stop like shooting it into him, and they all counted as shots. So I thought that was pretty wild and was something you don't see very often. So going to give some credit to him for sure as well. All right. What's so funny?
This guy's
No,
big.
I just want to see.
See what? Oh, you want to see it? Here,
No. I don't need to see it. I'm just like, that's just funny to me. I don't know why.
Well, he absolutely like just went like bop, 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 bop into Shesterkin basically. So, all right, let's move on from that to the power rankings. So for those who do not know, every week, starting last week, we do a power rankings of the top 8 teams in the NHL. It's kind of based off like this past week, but also based off of the overall season. I'll read off last week's as we move through the list, but are you guys ready?
Ready.
Sure.
All right, who wants to go first with the first team?
Jack should get to pick the number 1 team.
All right, Jack, who is the number 1 team in the NHL right now?
Oh man, I'm gonna say New Jersey.
Ooh, okay.
New
Jersey was not in our top 8 last year or last week.
Really? They were not in the top 8 last week?
No, they were not. They did not make our
wow.
top 8.
They were absolutely stinkers.
Yeah, they were a little last week. They're 6-3-1 in their last 10. They have won 3-0. Yeah, Carter, I agree with that. I think the Devils should be Devils probably should be first in the power rankings. For sure. All right, Carter, who do you got at number 2?
Number 2, I have got a team who has not lost yet in the last week, who has been absolutely carried by their superstar goaltender with 2 shutouts in his last 6 games. Give me the Ottawa Senators.
Wow. No sense hate. This is crazy. Oh,
listen,
my goodness.
Hey,
wow.
I'm a man of the people here. I can admit when, they're doing good, and they're doing good right now.
Do you think Ottawa should be 2 over some of the other better teams in the league?
Like over the last week, yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like they've allowed 3 goals in their last 4 games, which is impressive. And so have the New Jersey Devils. They've allowed 3 goals in their last 3 games, not 4, but
yeah.
You get the point.
No, I get what you're saying. Number 3, my turn, people. I'm gonna roll with the. I'm gonna go with.
Say it.
I'm gonna go with the LA Kings.
No, I have a team. In mind.
I'm going the LA Kings, dropping 3 spots from last time. They were number 3 last week. Again, the Senators and the Devils were not in last week's rankings, but the Kings were. They dropped by 3. They did lose a couple tough games. They lost to Pittsburgh the other night. So they've also been, they've started losing a little bit since their big winning streak, but they're still a good team. They should still be number 3. All right. We're back in the rotation to number 4. Jack, what do we got?
Pittsburgh Penguins.
Really? Okay.
7-2-1 in the last 10. They're climbing. They're slowly climbing.
Yeah, I think they are. They were like just outside of a wild card spot. You look at the Penguins' last couple of games. They won 3-2 against LA, lost in overtime to Ottawa, won 9-2 in Montreal. There's only been 2 games in the month of December where they have not registered a point, so they are racking up points. Again, people are going to flip out when they see this list, but yeah, I think that I think I can get behind that. All right, Carter, back to you at number 5. What do you got?
Back to me at number 5. I'm going almost the exact opposite of what I had in that first one.
Really?
So I said that I'm picking a team that has had absolutely stellar goaltending over their last few games. I'm picking a team that has not had the greatest goaltending over the last 3 games, but has been scoring at an unbelievable pace. Give me the Tampa Bay Lightning, 3-0 in their last 3, but with 18 goals in their last 3 games. A 6 goal per game average is ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. They have been absolutely scoring at an unbelievable level. Again, as you said, they've won 3 in a row. They are down towards they're in kind of the wild card race, honestly, but they have a plus 32 goal differential compared to the teams around them having negative goal differentials. So I think that's pretty impressive to look at there for sure. So yeah, I can agree with that 100%. Number 6, going back to me, even though, and this is my last pick, ironically enough, even though they just lost the other night against Florida, I'm still going with the Oilers. Oilers are still winning. Yes, they lost to Florida, but again, Florida is a pretty damn good team. So yeah, I think that for sure Edmonton should be on here. They won, I think, 6 in a row before then. They rise up 2 spots from last week. All right, back to Jack for his final pick.
I'm going to go Minnesota.
Okay. Wild. I think they lost last night, didn't they? Or lost?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, but I'll get behind that. You know, they're one of the teams who is at the up at towards the top of the league. They did. I'm trying to pull up their schedule real quick. They did lose. Yeah, they lost 3-2 on Sunday to Vegas. They play Florida tonight, so that'll be interesting. And then, Carter, you get the last pick at number 8.
Yes! Last pick, number 8. Who do I want to take? I don't know who I want to take here.
He's thinking.
I'm definitely thinking. I am definitely thinking. Give me... You know what? Give me fuck. I don't even know. I can't think right now. Give me I'll take Winnipeg. Give me Winnipeg.
All right.
I think they've been playing half decent. Although their 2 wins have been against very inferior opponents, but very resilient in their win over San Jose last night, which I 100% thought they were going to lose.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the power rankings. What's funny is that we have 5 new teams joining this list who were not on it last week. Number 1, New Jersey Devils. Number 2, Ottawa Senators. Number 3, LA Kings. Number 4, Pittsburgh Penguins. Number 5, Tampa Bay Lightning. Number 6, Edmonton Oilers. Number 7, Minnesota Wild. And number 8, Winnipeg Jets. I'm definitely going to have to make a asterisk on the post that I make for this, saying that it's based off of the last week and not overall, or else we might get cooked. All right. Anyways, that'll do it for this episode of the Nordcast. Any final thoughts from you guys? Jack, thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming back.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
I got nothing.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us. Episode coming back next week. We'll see you guys then. Thank you guys so much for watching or listening to yet again another episode of the Nordcast. If you enjoyed, please subscribe down below or follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you want to follow us on TikTok, we are at Nordcast. If you want to follow us on Instagram or Twitter, follow at Nordcast_. That'll do it for this episode. I'm Nordic. Thanks for listening from all the crew, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.